Hey, everybody. Welcome back to season 3 of the Mentor Nation podcast. I'm just so excited. This is the first episode that I've published in a couple of months, and I'm just so excited to be back. I spent a month traveling and then another month revamping, getting ready for season 3, recording some incredible episodes with different guests, redoing the intro out, like just different things to get this podcast ready. If this is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button, whether it's on Apple or YouTube or wherever you're watching or listening. I have some interviews that I've recorded that I know are going to blow your socks off over the next few weeks, and you are definitely going to want to get a notification. My promise to you is that this will be our best season yet. You know, we've always had incredible guests, but this season, I really try to focus on two things. The first is going deeper in the interviews to find the little things that led to their success. And second, I really focus this season on having guests that are doing, building, creating things that are really relevant to what a lot of you guys are working on right now. And today's guest is no exception. I was absolutely blown away by her story. I know you will be too. Sarah Wilson, she's the founder of Chip Cookies. They're the original cookie delivery company. Before Crumble and a lot of these other companies, they were the original. And what's really incredible about her story is she started in a rented kitchen with no money, with a newborn baby on the way. And this is just a few years ago. Today, they have a dozen locations. There are plans to open up hundreds more across the United States. And they were able to build this massively successful company while having 4 kids back to back to back to back. I mean, it's ridiculous. Her and her husband, they bootstrapped this company to success with almost no money. They've crushed the branding and they've just done everything right. And it's incredible. And we cover a lot in this interview about her story, bootstrapping in general, building a brand from scratch. So there's a lot of things that you can learn here. And I just know you're going to enjoy it. So sit back, get that pen and paper out, and please enjoy the interview. Sarah, welcome to the Mentor Nation podcast. Thank you so much for being here. I am very, very excited for our conversation today. So yeah, just welcome and thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to chat.
Yeah, me too. So for those listening, this is Sarah Wilson. Her and her husband, Sean, are the founders of Chip Cookies, a rapidly growing cookie delivery company that is opening up stores all over the place. I truly hope that you guys make your way to the South here very soon. I'm in Nashville.
Oh, yes. Yes. Stay tuned.
Yay. But, you know, reading your story, your bio, like what really inspires me most is that, you know, you guys are what I like to refer to as the ultimate success story. You know, somebody that it has an idea, they don't see a solution like around them. And so you just go and you build it from scratch through trial and error, through bootstrapping. And I love stories like that. And so I want to start by, if you could just share with everybody a little bit, how did Chip Cookies start? Like what happened?
Yes. And I mean, that couldn't be more true. Everything you said, I mean, I've lived and breathed it. So we started, I was actually pregnant. I had just had a kid walking.
No, totally fine.
Go find Anna. Sorry, that's my life. I ended up taking this from home. But I was pregnant with our first child and living in LA. And hey, buddy, you've got to get out. Sean, I'm so sorry.
Don't even worry. Seriously.
You have to get out. I'm on a really important call, okay? Here, Leo, take this. Okay, go. Go find Anna.
If anything, this will inspire all of the parents that are listening, which is a lot. Believe it or not, it's a lot of parents. It's totally fine.
So, anyway, I was pregnant. Those are 2 of my boys. I have 4 kids, but I was pregnant with our first. And, you know, I would crave chocolate chip cookies. And I think, you know, any pregnant woman, these cravings are real. And, you know, being my first, I felt like it was this medical need, you know, that I had to have cookies. And we were living in LA at the time. That's where I'm from. And we were both working professionals, my husband and I. And, you know, we're like, why isn't there anything like this? And I would these cravings would come at like 11 midnight, and I'd
Yep.
roll over
Yeah.
and be like, I need a cookie. And he'd kind of look at me and say, okay, I think it was that first child and she needs this cookie, and he'd run around town, bring back some options. And there just was not anything like this. And, really, like you said, we kind of saw this gap in the market and a problem that we were having. And, it's interesting because when we started, we felt like our customer was pregnant women, like, okay, where do we open? That's kind of why we tested the idea out in Provo, because we knew there were a lot of pregnant women there, and that's who our customer is. And obviously we've learned through the 6 years in business that, everyone likes cookies, and to have them warm and fresh and delivered to your door, it's this service that, in my opinion, every city needs. Like, I feel like if you go to move to a new town and you're like, there's not a chip here, you'd be disappointed, and so and that's really how we were born. My husband wrote the business plan just for fun and presented it to me, and I'm like, stick with your day job. We were both working, and anyway, so we that's how it started.
That's awesome. So can you share a little bit about, like, where is Chip Cookies today? Like, I mean, this is 2016 we're talking about when you started. Tell us about, like, your reach, your plans, like, where are you right now?
Yeah. So, when we started, we really had no idea that it would resonate with people. And it's really kind of grown into this whole market. We are the original gourmet cookie delivery company, we call ourselves. And we've had tons of, other businesses start after Chip, and really created this new industry, really, of this gourmet cookie delivery, option for people. And we've grown at a really steady rate. We have 10 corporate locations, and
Oh, wow.
we've, Sean and I run those together. And we last year, looked at our growth and our plans after 5 years in business. And with so much demand for our product, I mean, I can't tell you, every day there's emails and messages like, come to Nashville, come here. And, we are this warm, fresh concept. And so we need to be local. And so, we decided to start franchising. Earlier this year, we announced franchising, and really because we feel like we have the brand ready and the customers that are just begging for Chip in their city. And so, franchising is obviously a great vehicle for faster growth. And we also feel like we have a great concept for franchising. It's fairly simple, but simple is hard in a lot of ways too. And, for us, we are excited for that growth. We feel like finding the right people, operating 10 locations. We have stores outside of the state in Idaho. You really start to realize that local marketing that you need. And we're hoping to find franchisees that, are local and can say, hey, here's where you put the store. We think this is a great location. And obviously,
Right.
from a corporate perspective, we have insights on that as well. But to bring in someone local who's involved in the community, who knows, hey, we're going to sponsor this football team, or whatever it may be. I think that is, really why we've decided to grow in this way.
That's awesome. And I'm so excited because here we are, you're talking about 2016, which is just 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And then we see where you are in 2022. And in between there, it's only 6 years. That's not a lot of time. And in between, and in that
It's
time,
not longer than that, John, as you can imagine.
yeah, exactly. But you've also
kids.
and you've got 4 kids. And so I really want to focus this interview on that journey, like the things that you've learned, the good, the bad, the pitfalls, the mistakes, the things that you did right. But I just have a couple other quick questions before we get into that. The first one is now, were you and your husband, like, were you guys really entrepreneurial before this, or were you guys just focused on like a corporate career path? Like, what were you guys like before Chip Cookies?
Great question. So my husband is like lives and breathes, being an entrepreneur. And I am definitely more on the corporate side.
Okay.
I grew up with my dad being an attorney with the same law firm, and I like that stability. I think that a lot of women, we want that stability. And so when I married him, he was getting his MBA at UCLA, and I was like, okay, this is it. Like, he had started a shaved ice stand on the beach in Huntington. He'd started a number of businesses, and, I'm like, Kate, it's time. Like, let's climb that corporate ladder. But that was always in him. And so
I love it.
interesting because he's really given me that bug. And I really think it is a bug. I mean, once you create something of your own, I think it's hard to go back. And, I've received awards for like being an entrepreneur. And I'm like, I can't believe that that's a title for me because, that's not who I really was in my previous life, I would say. But, it's that bug. And my husband has really, I think somehow he turned it around on me. Right. And
Yep.
build something of your own. I think obviously it's a lot more work. It's a lot more risk.
Absolutely.
And it's all on you at the end of the day. And that can be scary, I think, for people. And I think I live in more of a comfort. I'm a woman of comfort. I want, the stability and the comfort, but there is just so much more upside. And
Now, is your husband from Utah or are you?
No, he's from San Diego.
Oh, and you're also from California.
Yeah, we're both from California. Yeah.
So where did Provo, Utah come into play?
So we both are BYU graduates, which is in Provo, but we're both from California, and we were living in LA when we had the idea. But we've heard about, it was very, I think, serendipitous. But we were talking to somebody and we heard about this rental kitchen that was opening in Provo that you could rent by the hour. They had brand new like ovens and equipment, and for our startup budget, that sounded great, right? Rent by the hour. We just thought we needed a kitchen to deliver out of. We had no idea that we'd want to open storefronts and brick and mortars. And so we just opened up this rental kitchen. I remember we signed and we're like, hey, like, should we do 4 hours or 5 hours? Like that was literally our budget, like, do we want to spend that extra $50, And we would fly up. We were just open Fridays and Saturdays from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. Like that's when we thought people were craving cookies. Again, this was just going off of these cravings, right? And we'd fly up to Utah. Sometimes he'd go up and I'd be answering the calls in LA, like we were just trade off, and hired a few people to help us bake and deliver cookies. And I mean, really within a couple weeks, John, we had people lining outside of this rental kitchen. And it was crazy because we didn't have a storefront, like we didn't have a sign, we didn't even have a point of sale. So people would come and we'd say, okay, go on that, like order online, walk across the street, and we'll deliver it to you. Like we'll walk it over to you. Like that's all we knew. It's like we were not planning. I mean, the response just spread. People heard about this, and there wasn't anything like this. I think there's more now, but at the time people were like, what is this? Like cookies warm in a box? Like you're going to bring them to me? I don't even understand, And I remember even doing deliveries and you'd knock on the door and they'd just scream. Like they would hug you and scream. Like, I can't believe you just bought me fresh cookies. And really what was neat is that, that service new for people, but also when they try the cookie, we designed the cookie and worked endlessly on the recipe to be the best cookie you've ever
I was just going to ask you that because that's me,
that's
right?
What it's all about, right? The cookie.
I'll get on Google and for date night, I'll like, all right, juiciest, most delicious chicken breast on earth recipe. And then I'll make it and it's so good. So I was going to ask, like, do you have a background in baking, or is this just the entrepreneur in you guys? Like, look, we're going to do it the way we're just going to figure it out until we find the perfect way to make a cookie. Like, do you have a background in baking or a recipe that's been in the family?
I feel like I should have like an honorary degree at this point. I still do our recipes and I'm like, where's my degree? Right. No, but I think, I think it's more a love of food. Like I truly love sweets. Like I have to have a dessert after breakfast. Like I love sweets. I love baking. I've always loved it. I'm not a trained, pastry chef, but I love baking. And so it was more when we had the idea, it was what cookie would I want and what is the best cookie? And we're really foodies. We travel a lot and it's, our itinerary is like, where are we going to eat? And then we sprinkle in a few sites, And
that's how we are. We're the same way.
I love it. We should travel together.
Seriously.
And we took inspiration from, there's a cookie shop in Amsterdam. They only sell one cookie. And we were like, that is so cool that you could sell one cookie. And that's how we started, was just one chocolate chip cookie on our menu. And so, it was really more about finding the best recipe. We tested and tested. We actually use a chocolate chip in our recipe that, we tested 1 million chocolate chips, as you can imagine. And we're called
Yep.
chips. So like we have to have the best chocolate chip you've ever had.
Right. Right.
And there's an ice cream company that Sean and I love, and we had kind of dating. It's a part of our love story. Food. It's so sad that that's a big part of our story, but love this ice cream, bonded over eating ice cream. You'd think we weigh like 500 pounds, but, and I said, okay, you know what? That's what we got to find out what chocolate this ice cream company uses. And we're using that. And that's what we use. And we've used from day one and continue to use it. So, sourcing the best ingredients is really, a big part of who we are and really what makes a difference with that cookie.
That's awesome. So just so that we can get into your journey and keep on track with like the story of your time. So you have the idea, you're in California. Did you guys just pick up and move to Utah, or did you start remotely? Like what was the timeline there?
Yeah. We moved to Utah about a year after opening. So again, had no idea the response would be like this. Would continue to, go back and forth. We opened our first brick and mortar in Provo about 6 months later. So within a couple months, there was just this demand to come pick up the product. We knew we needed a storefront.
Gotcha.
And we started looking at leases. Obviously, those things take time. We opened in April of 2017. So that first Provo location. And that was the first store. And then we moved up about a few months later. And again, we're California people. We went to school in Utah and loved Utah and had, some family here, but it was a big move for us, to commit to this. And Sean, didn't quit his job, really for years. I mean, I think it's only been about 2 years. So the first 4 years, he was kind of, doing both. Again, I love that stability and my health insurance. And
absolutely.
You realize, my husband has had to teach me things that seem like common knowledge, but he's like, you can have health insurance even if you don't have a job.
Dude, y'all literally seem so much like us. Like my wife is the same way. Now we own businesses all over Nashville together. And like, it's so cool. And I have to add as a side note, like some of the greatest entrepreneurs I have ever met are just in Utah, like in that BYU area, I mean, the greatest business people. And I don't just mean the best business people, but like, they're just so friendly. They're so good at sales. Mm-hmm. They're great at casting vision. And a lot of them went to BYU. That's just like, wow, they must breed brilliant entrepreneurs at that school. Like crazy.
I think it's a hub. Utah is this, interesting state where there's so many entrepreneurs. And I think it's cool. I mean, I think people really rally around each other and support each other. And somehow it just kind of infuses through the nation. I mean, we were lucky to start at BYU with people. So many people come there from out of state, then they move back home or get jobs all over. And again, they're like, where is Chip? Like, I relied on you to get through college and I need you, now to get through kids or jobs. And so that's been neat about franchising. I mean, we had somebody the other day I loved. He went to school at BYU when we had opened, had great stories, with his wife eating cookies, and they're married. And he's like, listen, it's been on my bucket list to open a Chip Cookies. Like that's so
awesome.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. Cool. So what were some of did you guys make any mistakes early on? And if so, like what were some of the big ones? If you did make some, like, was there any miscalculations, anything you did too soon or didn't do soon enough? Like just any stories that you can remember from those early days?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, we used to saying like Chip happens, or Chip hit the fan. Those are the worst days when I get a call like Chip hit the fan today. I'm like, oh no.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, I think because, I think some of the mistakes, were just that we didn't have bakery experience. And I think it's a good learning though, is that you don't have to, like, you will learn. I think a lot of entrepreneurs think like, I have to have everything figured out. Like I'm not a trained pastry chef. Like who would have thought I could have a bakery, that's growing like this. But I think you can make it work. And I think, for us, it was just, we'd never run bakeries before. And so like, we were just kind of growing organically. And I think some of the mistakes were, how do you staff, and we're just like, okay, you want to work? Sure. And how do you kind of have a great training program? And I think those were some of the mistakes we made is, do we need a general manager? And we'd never run bakeries or restaurants. And so I think we made some stumbles there in the beginning of how we staff these and how we run
Right.
them and who, and we're still learning, even to this day, like, do we, we've looked at changing how we run our stores and making sure, because, we were the people, we were running the stores, right?
That's right.
But as you start to grow, how do you staff these? How do you train managers? And when you can't be there all the time.
That's hard, isn't
It's
it?
hard.
Like how to duplicate yourself and your
Yeah.
values and your philosophy through people that it's just it's a hard thing. And
Mhm.
this brings me to a question that I know my audience is going to ask, and I have to ask, what's it like running a business with your husband? You hear success stories, you hear horror stories. Like, what's it like? And do you have like any advice? Like, do you just focus on your strengths? Do you divide and conquer? Like, you do this, I'll do this. Do you all do like, do your roles overlap? Can you just spend a few minutes sharing like just your experience with that?
Of course. Yeah. It's hard. I mean, I will not lie. Like, I cannot sugarcoat it. I can't have enough chocolate chips on this, but it's hard. I mean, we've had to set rules and boundaries, and I think that has really helped us. Is like you said, we kind of stay in our lanes, but obviously there are times we come together, and what those times
Right.
look like. And so I think we've been able to, like, through the hard knocks, of figuring it out of what that looks like for us. I mean, for instance, like, I have a certain time during the day where I'm like, in the evening, I'm like, no more chip talk. Like, chip is done. Like, we can't be talking about this when I'm going to sleep. Like, you gotta, he'll roll over with an idea, and I'm like, save it for the meeting we have in the morning or whatever it may be. And
Right.
we've had to just kind of, rein in how often we're talking about it. And that's hard. I mean, obviously, like, you're with each other all the time, and it gets under each other's skin more than anybody. But
That's right.
I think truly, if you can get past those things, if you can have a system that works for you guys, and when you're communicating and how you're communicating, I think working with your spouse can be an incredibly powerful and magical, couple or concept or team,
Yeah.
I should say. Because really, truly, at the same time, who bugs you more, but also who cares about you more, and who wants you to succeed more and to be happy more. And I think it can really, truly be a powerful thing when those are aligned. And it's just about, I think, setting up the framework. And that may look different for some people. Some people may need to collaborate. My husband likes to, like, make every decision together. And I'm like, no. Like, here's my lane, here's your lane. And we've both had to, compromise a little bit of,
Right.
okay, these are the things we make together, but these are the things that we can, make on our own and continue to move forward together. And so,
That's
it's
awesome.
still, we're still learning 6 years in, but it can be
Yep.
done. And I think it's a great, powerful thing. But I don't think it's for everybody,
Absolutely. Oh, well, that's great advice. And it's even more powerful that you guys are different people in that way. Like, you
Mhm.
are more security focused, he's more entrepreneurial, but you still made it work. And that's really cool, because I think a lot of people think in order to succeed as a couple in business together, you'll have to be like both be driven the same way, or you both have to be like, that's just, you've proven that that's not the case. And I also I just had to point this out, that I just love how you do a play on words with chip with everything.
Oh,
Like,
it's the best.
we do that to, like, holy chip. I could just imagine you guys every day. It's like
You go too
anything
far.
that's I can literally imagine. So I wanted to ask just a couple more questions about, like, the one question that I didn't ask, that I wanted to ask early on is, can you share with everybody a little bit about like chip cookies in terms of like, what's like is it small cookies, big cookies? Cause I've read, and I don't think the
Mhm.
audience knows. I just wanted to have you share like, what's like your brand? Like, is it certain flavors each day? Is it huge gooey cookies? Like, what's like the chip like model?
Love it. Yeah. So we have huge gourmet cookies, and that's how we started. I mean, I wanted this, like, big gooey cookie, but really we perfected that, like, crispy on the outside, gooey in the
Mm,
center cookie that everyone wants, like fresh out of the oven. We started with just chocolate chip. Again, like we were inspired by other, another company in Europe that had done that, but also we wanted to really lean into that quality. And that's really
Right.
one of our pillars is quality over quantity. And just, we're like, what if you can go and you're like, what am I going to order? Who wants to look at like a 25-page menu, right? Oh,
Right.
you just sell chocolate chip cookies. And again, people could not believe we had a business that just sold one product. And over the years, we've added fun things. I mean, we did a Cadbury cookie, which had Cadbury eggs in it, and that was just around Easter. And I'm like, how good would it be to put these in a cookie? And so it's evolved over time. Our customers love, so we have our chocolate chip, we call the OG, always on the menu. It's a big, almost 6 ounce
OG.
big cookie. We're the original, so we call it the OG. And then we have a Biscoff cookie. So it's cookie butter stuffed in the middle with biscuits in it and white chocolate chips. It's my favorite cookie. You try it. I'm gonna have to send you some, John, because it's incredible. And then we do a sugar cookie. So those three are always on the menu. And then we do a rotating weekly flavor. So, that includes flavors like Cadbury, s'mores. Our focus is putting out a product that's the best version you've ever had. So like the best cookie. And we actually just did one a couple of weeks ago that, in the Utah market, obviously it's very conservative. We did a better than sex chip, and it was funny because some of our employees were like, I don't want to say that, so they were calling it like the BTS cookie. But obviously it's a play on the, dessert, the better than sex cake.
I love it.
But this cookie, people are dying. I just got an email this morning. When are you bringing that back? So we do these fun weekly flavors, but really we focus on, chocolate chip is really who we are. And I think most of our customers that come are like, you have the best chocolate chip I've ever had in my life. And, that's really what we focus on.
That's awesome. Now, early on, did you guys have any mentors, like specifically, like, did you have any restaurant mentors, anybody that knew how to run a baker, or did you just actually just have mentors from afar and then figure everything else out on your own?
We figured a lot out, and I would recommend getting mentors earlier on. There was times when I'm like, do we really need to reinvent the wheel on this? But I think it was good, and it was helpful for us educating ourselves. But we have, probably about a year in, we were connected with Neil Courtney, who's the former CEO of Mrs. Fields. He lives here in Utah, and he's actually our franchise developer. He's on our team now.
That's amazing. Are you kidding? Mrs. Fields, they're huge.
Yeah, Mrs. Fields is from Utah. They started I don't think they started in Utah, but they're local to Utah. She lived in Park City for a while. But anyway, Neil Courtney's on our team, and he also runs, a franchise himself called Cookie Cutters, which is not associated with cookies, but, and we brought on other people. We have advisors, people who've worked for other brands here in Utah and nationwide. But awesome. Neil's really kind of been that mentor in a lot of ways and really helped us with franchising and moving into that direction. And also has great experience on the cookie side. It's interesting to see, Mrs. Fields, changed a lot, and what they did right and what they did wrong. And we've really, he's provided a lot of insight for that. But yeah, we love having him on the team. He's amazing.
That's amazing. I was listening to you in another interview, and my wife and you would probably get along. Like, her idol is Sarah Blakely.
Really? We are the same.
We were going to go on a retreat with Jesse.
Stop. That would be a dream. I love
he does funky things. Yeah, he does funky things. And my wife has oh my God. My wife has looked up to Sarah for ever since she was in college playing. Just amazing. So I just thought I had to ask you about the mentor thing. That's super cool. So I just have a couple other questions as we wind up. The first one is obviously, in this space, like any space, when you have a brilliant idea or something that's amazing, it's just like the minute you start, it's just like, shit, where did this competition come from?
Yeah.
And I'm sure that they're popping up. Like, what's like your stance on that? Like, how do you feel about competition? What are you doing or trying to do to be different, separate yourself? Obviously there's a lot of little things, but like what's kind of your take on competition?
Yeah, good question. I think competition's great. Like
Mhm.
as much as you can be like, oh, they stole this idea or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you have to get over that quickly and just say and let it keep you on your toes. I think that it helps you to do better. I think the nice thing about Chip is that we're the original. We kind of know the whys about why we did this, where
That's
we're
right.
coming from, and it dictates where we're going. And I think when people try us, a lot of it comes down to the product, right? And we stand behind our product. And I also think we've grown in the right way. We really have a strong foundation. We've had a lot of people see the idea, like you said, and say, oh, I could do this too. And they've, kind of grown at a fast, and I think not a healthy rate. And we feel like we have the foundation to grow and really have longevity in the market. And so, again, I think the big differentiators though for us is that quality. Focusing on quality, having a quality product, having a quality customer experience, a quality store. I mean, it resonates through our entire brand of what we do, and even quality franchisees. I mean, Sean and I are hand picking who we're working with.
Right.
We could grow at an even faster rate than we're going at. If we just, anyone who wanted to write a check could do it, right?
That's
But
exactly right.
it's about finding the right partners and the people who have that chip. We say make chip happen, and we're trying to find people. Again, we use it a little too much, but it's so fun to play around with our name. But we want people who are just ready to make it happen and have that same quality, emphasis that we have, and people who have that, who are hardworking and just want to make it happen. So I think competition's great, and I think you shouldn't be afraid of it, and
Absolutely.
you should see how it can just make you better. And we believe we're better. So I think that's a good place to be.
I love that. Now, did you guys raise money early on, or did you bootstrap for a long time?
We've bootstrapped the whole time. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So my final question, or just something I want to ask you, is I've obviously proven that an idea can turn into a business, be bootstrapped with you without you being some super successful baker your entire career. And the fact that I wasn't recording when you mentioned how old your kids were, but I want you to let everybody know, like, despite your growth since 2016, when you were pregnant with your first, it was your first at that time, right? Like, you have how many kids now?
I have 4 kids.
And they're how old?
7, 5, 3, and 1. He just turned 1 last week. Yeah.
So to those listening that are letting that little voice in their head say, oh, well, you know what? I've got kids. I've got this. I don't have any money. There's a lot of people that listen to this that are entrepreneurs. They want to be entrepreneurs. They want to grow. They want to scale. Like, what would you say to them that may inspire them to stop making excuses and take that first step? Or if they're already in business, just take that next step.
Yeah. I would say if I can do it, anyone can do it. I mean, I truly have grown, my family and my business at the same time. It's hard, but it's worth it. I like what you said of stop making excuses. Like, you can find time, it's kind of like the gym, right? Like, we can find every excuse not to go.
That's
but
right.
If something's important to you, if you believe in it, just do it, and I think for me, it's also just, that voice of like, everything has to be perfect. Maybe I need to go to culinary school first. Like, I thought about that. Like, maybe I need to go and get a degree, and that's typically how I do things in my life, right? Like, I need to go get my master's and then I can do this. But just go for it. Stop making excuses. I just believe in yourself, because if this mom of 4 kids growing a business and untrained baker can create something like this, I think anyone can. And we come from really humble beginnings in that way. And I think if you believe in yourself, you surround yourself with the right team, and you have the right work ethic, that anything is possible. Truly anything.
Absolutely. And I think too that a lot of people mistake that it's like business or family, but I think one of the greatest things that you can show your kids through example is being an entrepreneur, taking chances, having them involved in the business. I interviewed probably 3 months ago. She's the this is the CEO of Donato's Pizza, and they're a huge company. I mean, they're hundreds of millions of dollars, and her father started it, and she was like the daughter, like handing the pizzas out to like,
I love
people. And now she's the CEO of this 300-400 million dollar company with hundreds of locations around the country. And she said something that was really powerful, and she's like, the greatest thing my father ever could have taught me was him leading by example, his work ethic, his philosophies, his principles. She's like, I learned everything I needed through the philosophies that were instilled in his companies about values. And it's just really powerful. And I see that you guys are doing that. And I just think that's awesome. And my final question is just, what's the best place for anyone listening to follow your company, but is there a place where they can follow you and your husband's journey? Like, do you guys have any social media that's like public, or is it just mostly through Chip?
Yeah, mostly through Chip. I mean, we're on Instagram, Chip Cookies Co.
Perfect.
You can look on our website, chipcookies.co as well. We tend to be pretty private people. And since we've started franchising, they're like, this is a great story, right? And so I've started to feel more comfortable with that, of telling our story, because it really is a great story. And if it inspires people to start or inspires people to join the Chip family and franchise with us, like I think that people should know our story, and it's a genuine story, and it's a great story. And so we're willing to share that more. And so maybe there'll be more to come, John, but right now it's mostly just that main Chip account.
That's awesome. I got to ask this, like, did you try to buy chip.com or chipcookies.com? It was taken.
Yes.
Man, I hate that.
That's one of the best advice is get that right away. We have chipcookie.com. We do own that.
That's awesome.
We own a few iterations of it, but for now we stick with that. But I think that's something we'll change probably here soon. But yeah, I would, if you have an idea, buy the.
I know we're the same. We'll get on the domain and we're like, damn, it's taken. All right, how can we play around with it? .us, you're just trying to figure it out. I had to ask that. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, Sarah, it has been an absolute pleasure. I think you are going to inspire a lot of people with this interview. Your story is just amazing, and I wish you guys all the success in the world. And hopefully, I'll have the opportunity to have you back once you guys are at 100, 200 locations, and we can talk about what happened from 10 to 200. So thank you so much for being on and sharing just your wisdom with everybody today.
Thanks for having me, John. I appreciate it.